My name is Antonio. After 6 years of marriage, my wife told me she needed a break, just 1 week apart. She called it time to clear her head. I sat there trying to wrap my mind around what that actually meant. I've been around long enough to know that when someone says they need space, it usually isn't just about getting some fresh air. Still, I didn't want to jump to conclusions. But by the third day, it became painfully obvious that she had already moved on physically. And at that moment, I realized I had a choice to make. Before I tell you what I decided, I want to take you back to where it all began, because that's the only way any of this will make sense. About 9 years ago, some mutual friends organized a low-key game night at someone's apartment. That night, it felt like our friends were quietly playing matchmaker because they kept pairing Holly and me together for every game. From the moment we sat side by side, something just clicked. She was sharp, witty, and met my gaze when she spoke. After that evening, things quickly progressed. A few texts led to long conversations, and within days, we met up again, just the two of us. I was in my mid-20s then, working hard and figuring life out. Holly was finishing grad school, full of energy and big dreams. Even though we were at different points in life, we found a rhythm together. Before long, we were taking spontaneous weekend trips, driving hours just to see the stars, or crashing at cheap motels simply because we didn't want to go back home yet. When Holly's final year of grad school arrived, life became heavier for her. I couldn't fix her problems, but I could be there. I showed up. I wasn't a solution, but I was her support. She told me more than once that having me around helped her breathe easier. A year into our relationship, I landed a better job with steady hours and better pay. Life seemed to be opening up. After Holly graduated and got a solid job, we moved in together, finally feeling like equals. By our third year, I was certain I didn't need more time or signs. I bought a ring, took her back to one of the spots from our early dates, and asked her to marry me. The question came straight from the heart, and she said yes. We had a simple wedding, nothing flashy, just close family, friends, and vows. The early years of marriage looked like happiness. I truly believed we were on the same page. But looking back now, I wonder if we ever really were. After we tied the knot, we spent time learning how to be married to each other. Arguments happened, but they felt like the usual struggles of building a life together. And we always found our way back. But by the 5th year, things started to feel off. Holly began coming home later than usual. At first, I brushed it off. She said meetings ran late or she was working overtime. But when it became a regular thing, 2 or 3 times a week, I started to worry. One night, I asked if everything was okay at work, and suddenly her entire demeanor shifted. She snapped, got defensive, asking if I doubted her. She accused me of being controlling, and I was left speechless. I didn't know what to say anymore. With those arguments came distance. After every fight, instead of talking it through like before, she'd shut down. When I tried to check in or suggest we talk, she'd brush me off with, "I'm tired," or "not now." The coldness lasted longer each time, and I felt like I was tiptoeing through my own home. When she wasn't working late or go to bed early, she was glued to her phone. Some nights, we'd sit in the same room for hours, exchanging barely a handful of words. I tried to revive the spark, planned date nights, made dinner reservations, even offered to take her to her favorite little Italian spot. But she always had an excuse. Too tired, maybe next weekend. And when she did come, it felt like her body was there, but her mind was somewhere else, eyes on the phone, zoning out mid-conversation. I'd talk about my day, and she'd nod at the wrong moments, barely registering what I said. It felt like dining with a stranger. Honestly, I was lost. I didn't want to start fights, but I couldn't pretend everything was fine either. Every attempt I made, she dodged or dismissed. Some nights, I sat alone wondering who I was even living with anymore. This wasn't the woman I married. It hurt watching someone slip away right in front of you. One Friday evening, I decided I couldn't just stand by and watch things fall apart. I wanted to try to fix something. She loved my homemade lasagna, so I got home early, picked up groceries, and got to work in the kitchen. I hoped that a simple, thoughtful gesture might remind her of us, maybe open a door for her to share what was wrong. I even set the table properly, lit some candles, and turned off the TV so it would be just us and the silence. When she finally came through the door, I heard the keys jangling and my heart raced. She stepped inside, saw me in my apron stirring sauce, and for a moment, her face softened. Her lips curled just a little, like she was surprised. That gave me hope. It made me feel like I wasn't crazy for still holding on. We sat down to eat. She complimented the food, saying it smelled great. I kept things light, not pushing for serious talk, letting the moment settle. But halfway through dinner, she put her fork down, looked at me across the table, and I could tell something heavy was coming. Her expression shifted as she said, "I've been meaning to have this conversation for a while." Then she added, "I'm not feeling this marriage anymore." She said, "I think I need some space, maybe just a week to clear my head." I was stunned for a moment, trying to wrap my mind around what she meant. Gently I asked, "What do you mean by space?" I just needed to understand. She avoided my gaze for a few seconds before finally admitting, "I don't feel excited anymore. I just feel numb." I was at a loss for words. We'd been together 6 years, married with memories and shared history. Numb? Where did that come from? I tried to meet her halfway, suggesting counseling. People go through rough patches, but you don't just toss everything away. She shrugged, neither confirming nor denying. "Maybe," she said softly, "but I think I need time alone." That was all. I didn't press further. Not because I agreed, but because I knew pushing would only make her pull away more. Still, deep down, something didn't feel right. No proof yet, just a gut feeling. I nodded and said, "Okay." The very next morning after that dinner, she packed a small bag and stood by the door like she was heading on a business trip. She told me she'd be going to a weekend retreat, something peaceful and quiet to clear her mind. After that, she planned to stay at her parents' house for the rest of the week. I stood there silently in the kitchen, nodding with a heavy knot in my chest. I wanted to ask more about work from her parents' place, what exactly this retreat was. But I held back. I didn't want another argument. So I did what I usually do, watched, waited, and quietly put the pieces together. By day 3 of her break, the truth came out. I was at home, sorting through work emails when a message popped up from a close friend. Along with it was a screenshot from Instagram with a simple question. "Did you split up with your wife?" My heart sank. I hadn't touched Instagram in ages. I'd almost forgotten I even had it. Opening the image, my stomach dropped. It showed my wife at a rooftop bar, glowing with the carefree happiness of someone enjoying a night out, but leaning close to another man. I recognized him instantly, a co-worker of hers. Someone I'd met before, always friendly. But in this photo, they looked like teenagers caught up in something fresh and thrilling. It said everything without a single word. I reactivated my old Instagram account immediately. I had to see for myself. I searched her name, but the photo was gone. She deleted it. However, when I looked up the man's profile, the picture was still there. Finding his full name wasn't difficult. I checked his stories and saw more intimate photos. Smiles in places I'd never taken her. This wasn't a mistake or a one-time slip-up. It was deliberate. Needing to be certain, I called a trusted mutual friend who works in HR at a company. I played it cool, casually asking if Holly had approved time off. He laughed and said, "Yeah, she's on 2 weeks leave." I feigned surprise and said I just wanted to check. Then I mentioned her co-worker from the pictures. "He's on leave, too," my friend replied. That's when it all clicked. Her break from our marriage wasn't about space or reflection. It was a getaway with him. I kept monitoring their social media like a detective, taking screenshots of every post and story involving them. I wasn't ready to confront her yet. I needed evidence for what I knew was coming. That night, after seeing those photos, I sat at my kitchen table, opened my laptop, and started searching for the best divorce attorneys nearby. I sifted through countless websites, read reviews, checked ratings, and compared experiences until I found one who seemed professional and had positive feedback from people in situations like mine. I scheduled a consultation for the very next morning. I barely slept. When dawn came, I dressed, gathered all my screenshots, and headed to the lawyer's office. I told him everything. From the night she said she needed space to seeing her on what looked like a romantic trip with another man, all while claiming she was at her parents'. The lawyer listened intently, never interrupting. When I finished, he leaned back and explained what I had going for me. First, we were renting, and the lease was under my name. Legally, that meant I had the right to remain in our home. Second, though we had a joint bank account, I was the only one contributing significantly, and I had records to prove it, which would help when dividing our assets. Third, and most importantly, we had no children. That simplified things immensely. No custody battles, no child support disputes, no emotional turmoil over innocent lives. Then came the part that gave me real relief. Our state doesn't grant alimony or spousal support to partners who are unfaithful. The lawyer said, if you can prove she cheated, she won't get a penny when this is over. I sat there quietly for a moment, letting it all sink in. None of this made me happy. This wasn't the ending I ever imagined for our story. But I knew I had done everything I could. I looked the lawyer in the eye and said, let's move forward. File everything as soon as possible. He gave a small nod, and we got the process underway. When Holly left, she said she only needed a week away. But day 7 passed quietly. Then the days kept slipping by. By then, I already knew where she was and who she was spending time with. What hit me hardest was how she didn't even try to keep up the pretense. She didn't return until 2 weeks later. When she finally came back, it wasn't the same home she'd left. The locks had been changed, and her key no longer fit. I wasn't home when she arrived, but the moment she realized she couldn't get in, she called me. I answered calmly, saying something she probably wasn't ready for. It's over, I told her. You didn't want space. You wanted someone else. You've got him now. You're free, and so am I. Silence followed on the other end. I could hear her breathing, maybe searching for an excuse to soften the blow, but I didn't give her a chance to explain. I told her she didn't owe me any reasons anymore. My lawyer will send the divorce papers. I said, you can have them delivered wherever you want, your friend's place or email. That was the end of our conversation. She never returned to the house. The divorce itself wasn't messy in the usual ways. There were no children involved, and we didn't own the apartment. We were renting, and the lease was under my name only. I had already decided not to renew it when the time came. I was ready to close that chapter for good. We shared a joint bank account, but I was the only one putting real money into it. The court looked at our financial records and divided the account according to who contributed what, which meant most of it went to me. Still, during the court hearings, she tried to spin the story. She said I had been emotionally distant and that feeling alone in the marriage was what drove her away. I listened quietly as she spoke those words before the judge, not interrupting. I had made my peace with it all. Her excuses didn't matter anymore. What counted was that I was finally letting go of the love that had died long before this all started. The judge allowed her one last visit to the apartment to gather her things. After 4 long months, the divorce was finalized. Just like that, 6 years of marriage and 9 years of knowing each other officially came to a close. The person I once thought was my forever ended up being my toughest lesson. Looking back, I never imagined it would end like this. When you marry someone, you don't picture them walking away, or the person you loved turning into a stranger right before your eyes. You certainly don't expect to discover that the space they asked for was really just a getaway with someone else. But life doesn't wait for your permission to flip everything upside down. It just happens. I won't pretend this was easy. There were nights I lay awake, wondering if I missed a sign, if there was something I could have done differently, some moment where I should have paid closer attention. But no matter how much I questioned, I kept coming back to one truth. If someone doesn't want to stay, no amount of try will change that. And honestly, you shouldn't try. That's not love. That's desperation. And I refuse to live like that. I love Holly. I really did. I wanted us to grow old together, to fight for what we had. But love isn't a one-sided effort. When she left and chose someone else, she made it clear what we built no longer mattered to her. So I let her go, not because I stopped caring, but because I finally understood I was holding on to something that lived only in my memories, not in our reality. I don't know what lies ahead yet. I'm still figuring it out, one day at a time. But I do know this. I'd rather be alone and at peace than in a relationship that's broken beyond repair. Thanks for listening. Honestly, I figured someone out there might need to hear this. Someone who's going through something similar right now. Before I go, I want to ask you something. Take a moment to think about it. What would you do if you found yourself in a situation like this?